If you click on the Load Remaining Filters button, you can in fact open up even more filter types which would be available to you. You can query systems based on receiving water basin name, total mapped area, total length of system coastline. A filter which is very useful and would be very useful to many people is this channel gradient filter. Channel gradients in this case are based on 10 meters of elevation above sea level along the main channel of the system. And this is a very easy way to differentiate between steep fluvial gradients versus low gradient fluvial systems, which do allow us to differentiate important variability in the subsurface. In addition to that, we have a proxy for shelf gradient, which we can use done in a couple of different ways. We also have a filter where we can directly measure the distance from the shoreline to 10 meters of elevation along the main channel. So this is another version of gradient, which sometimes is a bit more intuitive to use because you're not dealing with fractions. In addition to that, we have an average distance to 10 meters of elevation above sea level, average distance to a couple of bathymetric contours of -10 and -100 meters. So again, if you're interested in proxies for shelf gradient, distance to shelf edge, all of this information, we do have filters which are very useful for doing such searches. A filter which is going to be very useful for many people is this mean spring tidal range filter. So for all systems, we can also run queries and filter them based on their tidal range. So if you're working in a tide influenced or a tide dominated system, you can very easily set your criteria and only look at potential analogs which are from mesotidal to macrotidal settings. In addition to that, we can look at drainage area as a filter, or you can use a climate classification as a filter. So as you can see, you can refine your queries a fair bit in terms of analogs. We have a filter which have a few systems which give examples of single or dual cline forms seaward from the shoreline. You can query by dominant river style at the mouth, so we have a big list of selections over here. You can query by dominant drainage type, in addition to a couple of filters, one of them dealing with a maximum dip extent of a beach ridge dominated interval perpendicular to the shoreline, and the other one dealing with whether the system is or is not associated with a barrier. As you can see, you have many filters you can choose from, which you can use for refining your analogs. What we will do in the next video is focus on dealing with the numeric fields in the filters. More specifically, how do we narrow down the ranges of numeric fields, how do we plot histograms, and how do we plot cross plots so that we can see some visual representations of dimensions of these features.